All right. Thank you again, everyone, for attending today's webinar on the Introduction to the Committed Brands Plus program, brought to you by ICTI Care. Today, for the next hour, we'll be discussing our Committed Brands Plus program, giving you some of the key features and some of the ways that we're looking at issues beyond compliance and transparency within the toy industry. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. You do have a control panel on your right-hand side, which will give you the option to ask questions. Feel free to submit them throughout the presentation today, and we will try and answer them as they come up or at the end of the session. Also, there are some handouts that you can download, and feel free to also chat to either myself or my colleague Anya, who can answer if you have any questions or technical problems. So again, hopefully everybody can see my screen, and let's get started. So today's agenda, hopefully by the end of today's webinar, you'll know a little bit more about our Committed Brands Plus program and how that can increase the impact of your responsible sourcing program for the toy and game industry. You'll see how our new technology is really simplifying the audit sharing process and ultimately try to maximize the benefits of that transparency and data sharing by cutting down on the amount of time that you have to spend sorting through audit data, asking factories or suppliers for social compliance information, and other administrative tasks. And then we'll also take a quick look at what beyond compliance programs we've launched here at ICTI Care and how that's supported by Plus membership. So I'm your presenter today, Tom Van Haren. I'm the Senior Advisor for Responsible Sourcing, and my role at ICTI Care is to speak with brands, retailers, toy associations, anybody really in the industry and outside stakeholders as well about responsible sourcing and try to either improve their program, try to make them the best in class for responsible sourcing, or help them get started on that journey. So hopefully by learning a little bit more about our Plus program, you'll be able to see how you can improve upon your responsible sourcing journey. Presumably you got an invitation from ICTI Care about this webinar, but I'll briefly go over what ICTI Care is. We are the ethical supply chain program of choice for the global toy industry, and our mission is simple. We are here to protect and enhance the lives of workers. We've got about 1,100 factories that are certified worldwide and in 12 countries, and that list of countries is growing every day, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Our program covers about 600,000 workers throughout the world, and we work with or are asked for by about 1,500 brands and retailers, again, worldwide. Everything that we do at ICTI Care is based on our Code of Business Practices that takes a look at social compliance issues across the board. So very common things such as no child labor, no forced labor, and then also taking a look at labor contracts and working conditions. So this is really our sort of guiding principles for what we do within the audit framework and really what we do in terms of enhancing the lives of workers. And sort of ICTI Care today. So what have we been doing since in the past couple of years? So we have the new CEO who joined us in 2015, who's really looking forward to increasing the capacity of the program and doing more outreach, more of this webinar series. You may have attended a few in the past, and we've got a couple more that we'll announce later in today's webinar. We are moving into new countries. I'll be off to India next week on a market excursion tour to explore what responsible sourcing means in India and to learn a little bit more about the Indian toy manufacturing process as well as the market over there. We're working to make the program even better with benchmarking and really hoping to become better thought leaders in the space to really show that the toy industry is taking responsible sourcing seriously and it's a high priority for not only our industry, but really for anybody who works within the toy, game, and entertainment sector. So again, I won't spend too much more on ICTI Care, but just to give you a little bit of background for the certification process, for those of you who aren't aware, again, the factory will apply for our certification process. We'll assign an audit firm, and that will be done with an unannounced audit. An auditor will show up at the factory, complete an inspection and full audit based on our code of business practices, and then our technical team will review that report and determine whether there are follow-up audits that are necessary or if a certification seal can be approved. Again, once that seal is issued, our program provides for 2 audits within a given year, so we monitor the factory closely, so it's not just a one and done, once a year audit protocol. It is up to 2 times, or at minimum 2 times a year in order for that factory to maintain its certification. Again, so we're all sort of speaking the same language. Some of you may have come across our seal classifications, and they range from A60 and then A, B, and C, and these are strictly based on the number of hours working in the factory. So again, the A60 is for during the peak season, where there's a maximum allowed hours during that 12-week peak season of 66 hours, and then during the off-peak season of 60 hours. Again, this is based strictly on working hours, and it's a way for brands and retailers and people who accept the ICTI Care program to get a sense and differentiate between different factories. As we continue to expand the program and benchmark, we're going to be reviewing these types of classifications and providing more insights onto the different types of non-compliances that one might expect in a factory. But again, this is just sort of to get everybody on the same page when we talk about certifications and the audit sharing data that we have available. So ICTI Care by the numbers, as I mentioned, those seal classifications, about 67% of our factories, of those 1,061 factories that are holding seals currently, are of that A or A60 level, and the rest are either B, C, or probationary seal classifications. We've got about 1,348 factories in our program, so about 300 either don't currently have certification or have been terminated from the program for any number of reasons, and this can include bribery, failure to follow through with a corrective action plan, or just because they've withdrawn from the program. This year we've run 390 factory training sessions to over 516 participants, and we've conducted up until last month about 2,385 audits for those factories. So again, a quick look at what ICTI Care has been doing up in this year, and give you a better sense of what we are looking forward to doing within the Plus program and next year and beyond. So to make this a little bit interactive, we've got our first survey question, and really trying to get a better sense of how the users of ICTI Care are sharing their social compliance data. So you should have a poll that will pop up here shortly, and the basic question is how you currently share social compliance data. So if you can select one or more of the following, so whether your supplier send you the audit information via email, through attachments of PDF, whether you track compliance data with a set of spreadsheets or Excel files. Some of you may already be members of our Plus program, so you use the ICPS system to monitor social compliance data. Some of you may request that ICTI Care certifications are sent to you directly via PDF or a copy of such, and then for some of you it's not a bad thing, but maybe you don't monitor social compliance data, and it's really important to take a look at the different options we've got here. So we'll keep this poll open for a few more seconds, and it would be great for everybody to respond if they can. All right, just a few more seconds open on this, and then we'll show the results for everybody here. All right, let's close that poll, and let's see what the results come up with here. So it looks like a lot of you share the information via email and the certification. So a lot of you are receiving are dialoguing with your suppliers and asking for the information directly to make sure that they send their up-to-date ICTI Care certification status in their audit reports. Obviously, a lot of reliance on the use of spreadsheets and processes like that, and it's good to see that some of you are using our social compliance data platform, ICPS. And for those of you who don't currently monitor social compliance data, it'd be great to learn a little bit more later on about what are the obstacles that you're facing and how we can sort of help you with that at ICTI Care. All right, so there'll be a couple more surveys throughout today, but thanks again for everybody for giving those insights. So one of the solutions that we mentioned for sharing social compliance data and really cutting down on the use of sort of email exchanges and spreadsheets and having everything in many different places is our ICPS responsible sourcing platform. This was a program it's a technology program that was developed late last year and has really come online in the early part of 2016. And it was designed with input from toy industry professionals, buyers, compliance folks, and also as retailers to really get a sense of what information needed to be exchanged and how to best get information from factories into the hands of the people that need it. So at the core of the ICPS system is the ability to connect with ICTI registered factories and for them to be able to, for users to be able to see the current factory status. In that sense, you can see whether a factory is currently certified, whether they're terminated, whether an audit has been scheduled, and when that audit or when that certification will expire. In addition, there's an ethical sourcing tool which we can show you, which allows you to search the entirety of the database of ICTI. So if you're looking for a particular type of manufacturer in a particular type of region, you can use the tool to see what type of factories are already certified. In addition, users of ICPS and Plus get instant access to the audit reports and the corrective action plans, so they can download the information to see what progress their suppliers have been making, what the non-compliances might have been, and then what the full certification report are. And we'll also go over some of the notifications and the workflow reminders that come up within the ICPS system. So the ICPS system is now live. So this is some screenshots from our test account here. And in essence, when a user logs in, they're able to see their connected factories. The process is similar to that of, say, LinkedIn or Facebook, where a brand or factory asks to share information on the ICPS system, and once that information link has been connected, the audit and corrective action plan data is shared with that particular brand or retailer. So in this case, the on-site corrective action plan can be downloaded by this user, as well as the audit report. They can also see the status of the factory in terms of the seal classification, as well as the effective, when the certificate was issued and when it expires. In addition, users can manage those connections. So in cases where a factory may not be supplying you, or you'd like to disconnect from a factory, you can share that. You can choose to include that information or not. One of the key features of ICPS is that a factory cannot disconnect from a brand or retailer without the permission of the brand or retailer user. In essence, this was created so that a factory who may get a negative report or perhaps some serious non-compliances would not then be able to hide that data from the brand or retailer until that time was corrected. In essence, the factory can share all or none of its data when connecting through the ICPS system. So again, that's a way to ensure transparency within the program, as well as for the factory to make sure that those issues are corrected in a timely manner. Currently, within the ICPS system, we've got about 1,000 factories that are connected to our brands and retailers that are our Plus members. That's really fantastic numbers. Personally, I think for the first year, the program has been launched created late last year, but really took off earlier this year. So in about less than 8 months, we've got about 1,000 factories connected. And more importantly, the factories are able to connect to more than one brand or retailer or their customer. And this really cuts down on the amount of duplication from the factory side, so that they don't get multiple email requests from, say, 5 different customers. They're able to connect to their customer for one season, and then perhaps for another season they can maintain that link there. So about 25% of our factories are connected to at least 2 brands or 2 customers or more. So that, again, it really cuts down on that duplication and the work for the factory in terms of the amount of time they have to manage the paperwork. mentioned this earlier, but that sourcing database, so this is the ability for users to go in and check on the entirety of the ICTI Care database. So this is a screenshot of that search function. So here you can take a look at what type of products you're looking for, whether you're looking for plush toys or plastic toys or wooden toys. You can search by the different countries that we operate in, and then in cases where there's provincial data, we'll go down to the provincial workplace. In addition, once you've identified a factory, you're able to see what their current manufacturing processes and capacity list are. So this is an example of one factory that's got the different types of machinery available for the toy industry and their capacity for that. So again, you can find the factories that fit your company's production needs, and you can connect with that factory, even in a pre-sourcing. You know, maybe you're not yet doing business with them, but you'd like to be doing business with them, and you want to check out their audit reports. So the factories are sort of encouraged to share that information with you, and that's again one of the benefits of the ICPS system. One of the other parts that is often time-consuming when dealing with multiple suppliers and different vendor lists is that supplier engagement process. So at ICTI Care and as part of the Plus program, we developed sort of a basic supplier engagement process for brands and retailers that we work with. The first is really that supply chain assessment. So this is open to anybody who asks for ICTI Care audits. You don't necessarily have to be a member of the Plus program. This is where brands and retailers can submit their factory list to us and see which suppliers are currently certified, what class certifications there are, and there's also an element of a modern-day slavery risk assessment based on the location of the factories. Again, this is just to give you a sense of where your factories are in terms of certifications. For those brands and retailers that do join our Plus program, we obviously encourage them to connect with their factories via ICPS. That gives them the benefit of that Plus members can see that instant audit data. In addition, our ICTI Care team will work with the brand and retailer to create messaging, website landing pages, and also reach out and directly connect with the factories to encourage them to connect. So in some cases, a request might be sent to a factory, and for whatever reason, they may not respond to it right away. So we stay on top of those things and monitor the connection status to make sure that that information is being shared in a timely manner. And of course, with the ICPS system, you're able to monitor progress over time. You can track those non-compliances. As a relatively new program, it is a great opportunity to get involved in terms of giving feedback and what kind of reporting is needed by brands and retailers. Some need very advanced reports, some just need simple certification process. And of course, so those reports can be created for internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, investors, or whatever other information might be needed to share in terms of transparency. So really, for us, we've created as part of the Plus program sort of an end-to-end supplier engagement process to ensure that brands and retailers get the most information in the quickest time possible. And on the reverse, there's also the benefits for the factories. So factories that are connected to Committed Brands Plus members, they'll receive priority access to our training program. So we examine our trading relationship database and make sure that the factories that are connected to users of the ICPS system, make sure that they get early notification of our training programs. They also get listed in that responsible sourcing database so that they can be found by Plus users in order to get perhaps new business, to get new contracts. Those who have taken the steps to connect on ICPS also get the ability to participate in our best practice roundtable and also have access to our technical help desk who can help them with any audit issues or really any processes that they have within the technology platform. So again, we want to make sure that as we build this program out and make it the best in class, that the factories also feel the benefit and are encouraged to connect and want to share the data with the with brands and retailers and their customers, as opposed to being a boring process that is simply just sending a PDF and checking a box in that sense. So we're really encouraging factories to, and actually getting active feedback from the factories to find out what it is that they want from the ICPS system. In addition, users of the ICPS system receive critical notifications. So these are just some of the different options that users can sign up for and get emails in. So whether a factory has been terminated, whether a particular audit has been uploaded into the process, whether there's been a request for an extension of a certification or any sort of change in status. So users can subscribe to any number of these notifications, or none of the notifications. So it's entirely up to you to see what kind of information that you get from the system. And we understand that different users of ICPS, when a brand or retailer have, some people may only be concerned about termination, and some may want the full audit report every time. So it's really customizable, depending on the level of need for the user. Beyond those notifications, we also use the ICPS system to produce special incident reports, and these are notifications that will go out to connected brands or retailers or customers when we are informed of a special incident. And these incidents do occur quite often, and we want to make sure that ICPS users and Plus members get instant notification and are able to keep track of these issues that pop up every now and then. So some of the incidents of the past couple of months, so there was this is a warehouse fire that affected one of our certified factories. There were no injuries or fatalities, and we were able to get a ICTI staff member up there to ensure that the production was still going on and that the workforce was still compliant with our code of business practices within a couple of days, and our brands and retailers on the Plus program were notified of that incident. This was another one. This was a small awning fire over an outdoor facility where the trucks are docked. Again, this was no fatalities and no injuries, a relatively minor incident, but this was something that we were notified of by the factory, and then we shared that information with the factory, or with the brands and retailers that were connected with that. And then this was an incident where, this final picture is from an incident where the management actually suddenly closed the factory because they ran out of money, and there was a demonstration outside of the factory, and police and local authorities were called in, and we sent up someone to investigate what the issues were, to try and figure out if the workers were getting paid for the work that they had already completed, and figure out if everything was in line with our procedures when these incidents happen. In this particular case, in the last one, that factory lost its seal and was terminated, and all of the brands and retailers that connect to it were notified. So again, it's the ability to share this information and to be instantly notified when there's potential disruptions to your supply chain, and receive those follow-ups from ICTI once our investigations have been completed. So that sort of focuses on the ICPS process. The second survey question, just to get everybody re-engaged and looking back at their screen, we want to sort of understand how you monitor trends in responsible sourcing. So beyond sort of just getting updates from the factories or just taking a look at audit reports, there's a lot of things going on in the responsible sourcing world, and not just in the toy industry. So it'd be great if everybody could just answer, let us know if you receive our ICTI NGO bulletin that we provide for our Plus members. Some of you may monitor social media and industry news sites. Others might participate in webinars either offered by ICTI or any number of other organizations, or attend conferences. Some may not really monitor trends because you may be a team of one that have about 5,000 other priorities, but you'd like to if you have the time. And then sometimes maybe this is just not an important topic right now, and there are other priorities in business. So if everybody can take a quick moment to answer our survey question here, we'll keep it open for a few more seconds. And again, this gives us great feedback into how ICTI and the Plus program in general should be approaching the responsible sourcing trends and providing that information. So just a few more seconds on this, and then we'll take a look at those results. All right, let's see what the numbers bring in. Great, so it looks like a lot of you do receive the NGO bulletin, and there is a copy of that, of our May version in the handout section that's available through the control panel, or you can ask us after for a copy of it. And it looks like it's great that none of you are not monitoring the trends in this area, so I'm glad that responsible sourcing is a priority at some point. It may not be number one, but that's in essence what we're trying to do at ICTI Care, is to take some of that burden of monitoring and creating resources for users to make sure that they are up to date on this information and really have the right information for their responsible sourcing program. And we'll talk a little bit more now about some of what we're doing to sort of help with the responsible sourcing in the toy industry. So, as I mentioned, so we have the NGO bulletin, and there's that copy in that handout. And this is when we provide timely notifications of potential trends and activities of NGOs and other organizations. And then if there are critical issues, as often happens within the toy and game industry, usually once or a year around the Christmas time, there are NGOs that bring attention to the working conditions in factories in China in terms of wages and hours. And we will hold critical update calls either on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, depending on what's necessary, to make sure that our Plus users and in theory the industry as a whole understand what's going on and we can serve as a point of contact for media and those inquiries. So again, that's one of the processes that we have in place, whether we're monitoring Twitter, LinkedIn, WeChat, any number of the various bulletin boards in China, and then as we expand out into other countries, we'll be exploring whether other options there are for that as well. We also have additional resources that we publish based on some of the information that we get on these trends. So earlier this summer, we published our recruitment practices briefing, both in English and Chinese. And this was a guidance for toy factories on avoiding peak season hiring pitfalls. This was to make sure that they understand some of those issues of when they need a lot of staff very quickly, what they need to avoid in order to make sure that they stay compliant with the ICTI Care certification process. Since it was launched, it's been downloaded over 3,000 times, and it's been published on the UN Global Compact website as a resource for anybody to really use. And I believe that's also as a handout on the right-hand side, but it's also available on our website. We're also pushing for more thought leadership. So funding from Plus membership allows ICTI Care to raise awareness of our work. It builds trust in our program, and it really enhances the toy industry's profile as leaders in responsible sourcing. Historically, the toy industry really focused on sort of product safety issues, and really we want to make sure that both ICTI Care and the industry as a whole are seen as leaders in responsible sourcing. So we do some media outreach, we've got a lot of questions and answers, and we'll be attending some upcoming events. Next week I will be in India, attending the Kids India Toy Fair, and also doing a market excursion tour sponsored by Spielwarenkasse, a German group, as well as the Toy Industry Association, to really get a sense of manufacturing practices there. But again, we also attend other events like the Fall Toy Preview, the Brand Licensing Conference in London, and the Chicago Toy and Game Fair. Again, we want to make sure that we're speaking to the right people and understanding what the trends are, not only at the large companies and large organizations, but all the way down to those inventors and designers who might be interested in responsible sourcing. So we do have 2 upcoming webinars. We'll send out the invitations and the information will be on our website. But on September 29th, this will be an exclusive webinar for Plus members. It'll basically be an insights on that India tour. We'll have some recap of what I witnessed while I was over there, as well as some insights from our partner Impact, who we are working with closely on the ground in India to increase the capacity of Indian factories in our program. And then about a month from now, October 13th, we'll be taking a look at subcontracting in the toy industry. These are hidden risks and fake factories. This is going to be a general webinar. It's open to everyone to help people understand what our process is for subcontracting and to show you some examples of when we go in and find sort of fake factories and and demo factories. So it should be an interesting webinar. And again, the links will be available in the post-survey or in the post-webinar survey, and it'll be available online as well. The final survey, again, just to get everybody back engaged here. And this is really for those folks kind of looking at what is going beyond compliance. This is sort of a buzzword in responsible sourcing that we've been taking a look at. And we want to sort of we want to know what does going beyond compliance mean for you and your organization. In some cases, this might mean measuring the impacts of a responsible sourcing program, trying to understand how many workers you're improving the lives of. In some cases, it may be that you want your suppliers to surpass the basic minimum expectations, so you're really pushing them to do more. For others, beyond compliance means aiming to grade suppliers and ranking them in some sense instead of simply checking a box. Some are trying to tackle the root causes of supply chains, and for some, again, what do we mean by beyond? We can barely keep up as it is. Again, we want to make sure that we help brands and retailers and the industry as a whole. For the ones that are very advanced, all the ones who are just starting this journey. So again, this is the last survey, so really appreciate if you can give your insights on this, and this will help us, again, develop our program and make sure that we're reaching the right audiences and creating the right messages. So just a few more seconds on this. All right, let's take a look at those results. All right, so for beyond compliance is really that focusing on that minimum compliance expectations, and that's really what I think as the ICTI Care program evolves and we've begun looking at benchmarking our program against other programs. We want to make sure that we advance the course of responsibility and responsible sourcing within a means that works for brands and retailers, but also that factories aren't necessarily left behind. So we need to make sure that we understand the expectations of not only the industry, but also see what the factories are experiencing on the ground. And then, basically combating root causes. We'll talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing on the root causes of risk in your supply chain. But it really is great to see that a lot of folks of the attendees today, who are probably 90% are from the toy industry, are looking at what beyond compliance means. So that's, again, thank you for everyone for participating in that poll. So taking a look at sort of, when we're talking about beyond compliance, it's good to also take a look back and see what the traditional view of responsible sourcing was. So in the past, sort of it was, as you can see, sort of a checklist, and basically making sure that there were no children, no slaves or forced labor, and no locked or blocked fire exits. And an auditor might go in, and this might be a company auditor from the brand or retailer, or perhaps in some cases a third-party auditor, and just making sure that those three were checked off. We've come a long way from that. Obviously, ICTI Care has a lot more things that we cover within our audit protocols, but we want to make sure that we're looking at what beyond compliance means and what really bringing this into the 21st century. And ultimately that means taking a look at what happens after the audit. So how do we ingrain in factories the idea that there are things that we need to look at beyond compliance? It's not just making sure that everybody looks pretty or everything that looks pretty on the day of the audit, but that this is part of the management processes. And part of it is building capacity and training programs for factories, and not just saying this is a non-compliance, this isn't a non-compliance, but really tackling those root causes. We're going to be looking at doing more impact measurements, so this may be for individual brands or retailers within our Plus program, or for the industry in general, to really see what we're doing as a program. And then obviously we want to make sure that there's continuous improvement. There's always going to be leaders and laggards, and we want to make sure that the leaders can assist the laggards in keeping up with the market and making sure that those factories that want to stay committed to a program, that they understand that they need to make improvements year on year, and that it's not just a simple certification that they can hang on to if they just do the bare minimum. So again, part of our training and capacity building programs that already exist. So we work with different levels of factory management. So we've historically done a lot with sort of direct line and line supervisors, teaching them how to meet social compliance requirements, helping them find the root causes of non-compliances. And ultimately, this improves overall conditions that really increase retention and productivity for the factory. So, we always have to make the business case to some extent for the factories and why this is important. For many, it may simply be that they don't get orders or buys from customers or brands. But in some cases, the beyond compliance issues are that if you treat factory workers with respect and make sure that the conditions are above our standard, that the factory workers will be more likely to stay there. You won't have to pay as much to recruit new staff, and you also won't have to have a lot of turnover, so that you'll have experts on your factory line and your factory processes. We've recently hired a new training and capacity building staff member or leader in our Hong Kong office, and they're going to be looking at creating more factory programs for factory owners and really driving that business case from the top down to the management, down to the workers in that sense. So that's one of the programs that we're looking at in terms of training and capacity. We also have worker-centered resources, so we want to make sure that not only are we speaking to management, but we're also able to develop resources that speak directly to the workers. So some of our past resources have included e-learning tools. So these are videos that we're producing in partnership with Verite to sort of help improve management dialogue, as well as help migrant workers, which there are many in China, to adapt to factory living. We also developed a comic book, again, to work on that migrant worker issue and helping them adapt to the life in the city and in the factory, and that was produced in partnership with Little Bird. So we have a two-pronged approach really within ICTI Care on responsible sourcing for taking a look at management, but also on the worker side. This next section is about left behind children, and this might be something that you're familiar with. You might have read it in the newspaper. There's a couple of headlines from the BBC earlier this year, and the New York Times. And left behind children, in essence, is a growing problem in China. Well, it's an issue that has come to the forefront, and for many of the children, their parents left the rural regions to move to the area around Shenzhen and the southern part of China to work in factories. And in many cases, these families do not see their children maybe once a year at Chinese New Year, or maybe twice a year. They have phone calls, and that lasts very quickly, and they don't really engage with any of their children. And this is also an issue that the Chinese government is taking a look at. So it's not just an issue for the toy industry, it's an issue for all of manufacturing within China, but it's something that the government is starting to take a look at, and what can be done about this issue of left behind children. And on top of that, it's really important for us when we think about left behind children and some of the work that we're doing on this, that many of us in our day-to-day jobs, we want to try to focus on the big picture and the latest big data trends, but I want to show you something that sort of is an important reminder that small impacts also matter. And this is just a little case study from a program that we've recently launched this summer with support from Plus members, as well as other within the toy industry. So this is sort of a segment that we work with our partner CCR CSR, and they interviewed a worker who is a 32-year-old toy factory worker who has a 6-year-old daughter who lives a 10-hour train ride from the factory. So back in the hometown, they stay with a grandmother, and it's a 10-hour ride away. And Ms. Wong said that she's not very close to her daughter because she never raised her. They don't talk much on the phone, and they don't really talk about any of the problems that they have. So when you hear stories like this and issues on left behind children, we at ICTI Care wanted to see what we can do. Toys and games are the center of really the parent-child relationship. And we wanted to see how we as an industry and we as an organization can really address those issues. So we developed a program in partnership with CCR, CSR. They're really the ones who developed a program and made it possible, called the Factory Child Friendly Spaces. And in essence, it allows children to connect with their parents during the summer school breaks. The child will come down from the rural region and interact with the parent on the factory. We ensure that the factory has the appropriate space well away from the actual factory floor. This might be in an unused portion of the dormitory or perhaps a management building. So we make sure that the children are taken care of outside of the factory in that sense. They attend educational programs, nutritional training, they have field trips, but at its core is really that it creates that relationship between the parent and the child. So it allows them to reconnect. And this is, as you can see, there's some great pictures from the children enjoying the program, but Ms. Wong reported that she feels closer to her child now, that she's relieved that she can be there. And again, measuring that small impact. This is one family, one child, but this really hopefully can turn into something that we can reproduce year on year and really have a multiplier effect. Because Ms. Wong noticed a remarkable transformation in her daughter. She's no longer closed off, reserved. They talk about details of the life. And really the parent can also show them what they're doing so far away. So why is the parent 10 hours away? Because they're trying to work, and shows them what they make. And really, this is a program that Ms. Wong wishes that the program could stay open longer. So we really want to thank the generous support of PLUS members as well as others in the toy industry, because we were able to bring this to only two pilot factories this summer, but we're hoping to expand that out within our program as we go forward. So again, while we look at big pictures and want to see how things affect in data trends, it's important to remember that we do have real impacts on the lives of workers and their families. So again, just sort of closing up here, we've got about 15 minutes left. So the PLUS program, at its heart, we don't expect any company to be perfect that we work with. We just want to make sure that when a toy brand, a retailer, or user joins, that we expect a commitment, a direct involvement, and transparency. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, PLUS users are able to demonstrate that clear commitment to responsible sourcing, that they are able to realize annual improvements, and really be able to use the full breadth of features and resources that we have available at ICTI Care for their involvement in the PLUS program. So a quick recap of those features. So we have the ICPS platform that allows you to monitor, manage, and improve the ethical performance of your manufacturing supply chain with the program and connecting with them. You have the access to the audit reports and the corrective action plans instantly as they're uploaded by our team. You can also tackle root causes. We have our special investigation team, as I mentioned earlier, and they're working on the ground to solve those problems and really engaging factory management to address those root causes of issues and risks in the supply chain. We're building the factory capabilities, whether that be training programs or programs like the Factory Child Friendly Spaces. And then really we're hoping to strengthen stakeholder engagement with support on how to address requests from NGOs, investors, and the media. We do have our modern day slavery working group that we are working on finalizing the details and getting that ready for launch here at the end of this month, so that if there are people who are interested in joining that, feel free to contact us as well. In that, we're really looking at sort of the journey of a toy back down the different levels of the supply chain, so we can try to understand the risks of issues of modern day slavery and issues like conflict minerals and electronic toys. So again, that's sort of the recap of the features there. And again, we want to thank those brands and retailers that have already joined the PLUS program. So want to acknowledge those who have already taken that commitment to the next step, and we're hoping that we get a lot more brands and retailers on board over the next coming months to really make sure that our program is well informed and is well served by the community of the toy industry. In terms of how to be a member of the PLUS program, it's really for the lessen the cost of a full-time employee. Companies can enjoy the full range of benefits and features of the PLUS program. So our annual membership fee for the Plus program is starts at $800 US dollars to 18,000 US dollars, and this is based on the annual company revenue for toys and games. So we want to try and make sure that it's accessible to the smallest enterprises all the way up to the larger enterprises without being a financial burden, and really making sure that our program provides the value for the money and the membership fees that we collect from that. Also, there is a special offer today for those who complete the survey at the end of the webinar. So if you do have the time and you've lasted this long into the webinar, it would be great for you to fill out that survey, and we'll have some special offers for those folks. So for more information, if you do have any questions about the ICTI program in general or about the Plus program, you can visit our website, or you can email us at join@icticare.org. So I wanted to stop there. We've got about 15 minutes left for questions. So happy to answer those as they come up, or if you think of something later on, we are always available, and certainly can leverage our global team to get you those answers. So feel free to submit the questions either through the chat or on the right-hand side, or the questions screen there. We've got a couple coming in already, so we'll give a few seconds here, and then I can certainly start answering those questions. All right, so the first question is, can we still use or ask for ICTI audits even if we're not Plus members? So that's entirely possible. ICTI is an open audit protocol for anybody to request from their factories. You don't necessarily have to be a Plus member to ask for it for a factory to be certified. You are still able to access from our website our basic inquiry database, which will allow you to verify the certifications. You won't get any access to sort of the audit reports or the corrective action plans directly from ICTI. You'll still have to go through and ask the factories to get those directly, but anybody can use the ICTI program and request those audits of their suppliers. The second question is, are there opportunities to contribute to ICTI without necessarily joining Plus? So obviously the Plus program is a program that we want to design for people to contribute across the industry and increase their knowledge of responsible sourcing. But we do have other opportunities, such as participation in the webinars or in any of our working groups on these issues. We also have our technical advisory committee, which focuses on the audit protocol, and that is open to members of the toy industry. They can be nominated for that as well. Again, we don't want necessarily people to be excluded from the process, but we want to make sure that Plus members really get enhanced features and benefits that really go along with their annual membership commitment. All right, this is the last chance to ask any burning questions or any comments that you have about the webinar. Again, we want to make sure that everyone knows that we are, of course, always available at our website or on email if you do have anything that you come up with after later on. Otherwise, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. Please do fill out that survey at the end of that will pop up as you close the webinar. I will graciously cede back the 10 minutes for the rest of everybody to enjoy their afternoon or their morning, depending on where they are in the world. And we look forward to hosting everyone for our future webinars and make sure that that information gets out to everyone. So again, thank you all for joining today's webinar, and look forward to speaking with you or meeting some of you in person soon. Bye now.